Over the last couple years, there's been a huge rise in independent released horror games that have absolutely flooded PC and Steam, but a few of those have started to trickle over the consoles with the PlayStation 4, and there's a new one that had finally come over from Steam called Emily Wants to Play. But does this PS4 independent released horror game scare up a good time? Or is it just an embarrassment to the horror genre? Emily Wants to Play takes its cues from the likes of Five Nights at Freddy's and PT and all the general horror indie games that have been released in the last couple of years. You play as a pizza delivery guy who's delivering a pizza to a house, and you get there and it's all in disarray. Soon enough, though, the lights start to turn off, doors start to close and open, and you'll hear the maniacal laughter of a little girl. Your goal in the game is just to survive. You're not given kind of any backstory, you're not given any story throughout the course of the game itself. Your goal, though, is just to survive the whole night, hour by hour, similar to how the days work in Five Nights at Freddy's. Every hour that goes by, the gimmick of that particular hour ends up changing up. There's a total of 4 creatures, monsters, whatever you want to call them, that is going to try to make your night a living hell and try to kill you. Each of these entities are introduced slowly hour by hour, and you'll have to face off with multiple during some hours, and of course at the very end of the game, the finale, you'll have to deal with all of them all at one time, trying to play each of their games. And that's basically what's going on. Each of them presents kind of a modified version of a game, and if you fail at the game, you end up dying and have to restart. Thankfully though, once you make it to a new hour, when you restart, you'll be starting back at the hour that you were at, so you don't have to start the entire game all over again, thankfully. Emily is the classic scary little girl trope. You also have a killer toy clown, a ventriloquist dummy, and a doll that you'll have to deal with, and they all play different games. You'll learn how the sound cues work to signify that one of these entities has spawned nearby, and then you'll have to react accordingly, playing one of their various games by basically either not moving at all, running away, or looking at them as they're trying to get near you. The whole finding out how each of these work and being able to react to it is really kind of the core of the game, and there really isn't much outside of that, and your whole thing is to master each of them and then be able to finally survive for a long enough period of time to get out of the house. Once you're able to figure out how each of these scary entities works, and I use really scary in quotes here because honestly everything in this game made me laugh out loud so hysterically I had to pause the game on multiple occasions. The clown, and especially the dummy, when it runs towards you, is one of the funniest looking things I had seen for a while in the game, and honestly I'm glad I played this just because I needed a good laugh, honestly. The house itself that you're in isn't relatively big by any means, but because of how it's set up with lots of stuff laying all around, it's hard to maneuver around, and you'll need to find a flashlight because the lights will eventually go out, and as long as you have it, you'll be able to kind of slowly traverse your way through it. There are some secrets throughout the course of the house as well that I won't spoiler here, so there's a little bit more to it than just kind of surviving in the house, and you can find a little bit of backstory and things here and there throughout it, but there honestly isn't a whole lot to it. The game itself, if you're able to figure out how everything works, can be beaten in a relatively short amount of time. The whole key to it, though, is figuring out how each of these monsters work so that you'll be able to survive that particular hour. If you're one of those people that figures things out pretty easily, or you use a guide of any sort, you'll probably be done with this game in an hour at most. It may take you a little bit to finally get past that last hour because a lot of it has to do with luck, much more so than actually skill of being able to avoid each of these creatures. It's honestly pretty ugly overall to kind of look at the models. Like I said, each of the creatures, entities, whatever, are just hilariously laughable at best. What makes this game scary is the jump scares. If you're someone who likes a jump scare filled game, that's where you're going to get any of your scare or horror here, as there really isn't anything else presented in the game overall to give it even more of a creepy atmosphere, as the house itself doesn't change or morph or other things start to happen throughout. It's just surviving these entities hour by hour. The creatures themselves are just so laughable to look at. Heck, and they just pop in with a puff of smoke and then disappear the same way, and it just made me stop and laugh many more times than actually kind of catch me off guard and scare me. Heck, one time I even had one of the creatures be pushed out of the way by a closing door, which I just lost it at that point. It took me a few minutes to kind of recover from laughing so that I was able to continue playing. The game is available on PlayStation Network for $4.99. Thankfully, that's all it costs, but it does not have a Platinum trophy, and honestly, it's not even worth the $5 that it ends up costing. While I honestly like a couple of the mechanics here and there, it just makes me wish I was playing a better horror game, and some of those mechanics were put in a better game overall. This game gave me nothing really new overall to enjoy with horror, and as a dedicated horror game fan, I cannot really recommend it to anyone. The only people that probably even pick this game up to begin with are probably people that are going to play it for YouTube with a webcam and hope to scream like a 2-year-old at their camera to try to get some extra views. In the end, I'm going to be giving the game a 3 out of 10. It does function for what it's trying to do, and thankfully it's cheap, but honestly, there's nothing really of value for horror fans unless you're honestly looking for a laugh. Anyway guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.